Nobody teaches you this. Not in school, not in your first job, not even in most business programs. The art of making an ask that actually lands. And yet, every leader who has ever built something, every nonprofit director who has ever won a grant, every entrepreneur who has ever closed a deal did it through one skill they probably stumbled into on their own: sales. Right now, there are 35 million small business owners in the US alone, and half of them will be gone in 5 years, not for lack of passion, but because nobody showed them how to find the room, read it, and make the ask. The people who figure this out aren't luckier than you. They just got access to something you haven't yet.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Impactors Out Loud with me, Tracy V. Allen. And today we have with us Daman. Daman is going to talk to us about sales and logistics for entrepreneurs. So, Daman, welcome to Impactors Out Loud. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Tracy. Appreciate being here.
Yes. So, Damon, tell us a little bit about yourself. We call it our cause tale. So, what is your cause tale? How did you get into this? And tell us a little bit about your backstory.
For sure, yeah. My cause tale. I don't think anyone picks transportation or logistics as a career. It usually picks us. So it was
Mhm.
again 100% accidental. Um, Even learning everything about sales was accidental. So just to kind of give you the backstory, I grew up in a single parent household. Didn't really have much growing up. When it came to education after post secondary, I was trying to figure out how do I finish my university or college. So I had to go look for different jobs to be able to earn enough money to finish my schooling off. And that's
Mhm.
where I kind of landed into transportation and logistics by accident. Through my journey there, kind of had a lot of saw the opportunities in transportation, but then I also saw a lot of negative experiences that I had throughout my journey going working for some of these employers, which
Mhm.
ultimately led me to open up my own. And then from opening up my own, I started one business, a second business, failed at a couple of different businesses, and then same thing. I've just kind of kept going and growing. And
Mhm.
what happened along that journey was we kind of came across a lot of people that want to learn. And so typically when we would post our job advertisements or any sort of opportunities that we had at any of our companies, we realized that a lot of people were being caught in the spam filter.
Mhm.
And then when one day, a couple of years into this, I looked at the spam filter and I'm like, wow, there's hundreds of people here from over 65 different countries around the world. And we started opening up some of these opportunities for people globally. And we realized that people globally could actually work into international markets um, outside their own country. So whether working in North America, we had
Mhm.
people again doing things that I didn't think were possible, or they didn't think that was possible,
Mhm.
and they were actually able to get large corporations to actually work with them. And so when I saw this was possible, it's something that we wanted to kind of bring out and say, okay, hey, how can we teach more people about these opportunities, how to find them, and create a platform where we could just teach one to many instead of doing the one to one. It's a little bit
Yeah.
difficult doing a lot of one to one work, but we
Mhm.
definitely thought it was something that the global community needed. And logistics is something, again, it's working with anything around the world and how to move, whether it's people or goods, uh, anywhere across the globe. And we figured, okay, well, why not just do it with our program here and figure out, how we could build this global community together and teach people in a way that, again, it's good ethics, right? Honest way to do things, and that was kind of our passion to how we got started.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you to clarify for us is exactly what logistics is, because I think that when people hear the word logistics, they naturally think of just transporting, groceries, goods, furniture, that type of stuff. So I was happy that
Mhm.
you said it's the transportation of moving of people and things from one place to the other. Yeah.
For sure. Our platform is called Logistics Sales,
Mhm.
but it's not necessarily all related to logistics. It's just
Mhm.
general principles and foundations that are applicable across any business and any sales opportunity. But just because our background happens to be in logistics and transportation, we kind of carry that with us for a lot of our examples that we give.
Right. Because one of the things, I was having a conversation with someone earlier this week, and I was saying a lot of things that we do, especially as entrepreneurs, does fall into the logistics bucket, right? So, tell us exactly what it is that you do for entrepreneurs. And because we were talking offline and we are talking about sales and how I thought that every entrepreneur should take some type of sales and logistics class, because we're not just selling ourselves as entrepreneurs, we're selling ourselves in our everyday interactions with people. And then you mentioned school. So talk to me about that.
For sure, yeah. So basically, the first thing that we're trying to do is change the mindset when it comes to sales and entrepreneurship in general. Because
Mhm.
again, sales can sometimes have a lot of negative connotations that go
Yes.
along with it. And what we're trying to just break down is say, well, sales is just customer service. Sales is just communication.
Uh,
Sales is asking your friend to go to lunch with you. Again, breaking it down to a very simple, basic level to just understand, okay, hey, sales is truly just to serve people better. And that's what we want to teach. It's not this Wolf of Wall Street where I'm trying to sell you my pen and you don't need a pen because there's many that
right.
exist. And why would I want to sell you something overpriced if you don't need it?
Mhm.
Right. So again, we're getting away from those type of stigmatisms that people have kind of developed towards sales culture and that hustle culture, which is about, what can I get? What can I make? But instead of saying, okay, well, if we flip that script into service,
Mhm.
how do I love my neighbor instead of how do I take from my neighbor? So again, just flipping the script and saying, okay, well, hey, there's a better way to do this. And that's what we want to teach people and give them that foundation. So the first part is breaking down that aspect of it. And then we're
Mhm.
giving you this, we're trying to teach you the opportunities that exist within these type of industries. And every company has a sales component. There's nothing that doesn't have a
Right.
sales component. Even I say, the simple way to look at it, even a charity has to have sales for
Oh,
it to
most
survive.
definitely.
Yeah.
Because I
So
work with
and
nonprofits. So,
okay,
because I'm a
yeah.
nonprofit consultant, and I tell them that all the time. You
Mhm.
have to sell. And they're like, but we're a charity. And I'm like, everything is about selling. Okay. You have to sell your mission, your vision. You have to sell your impact. You have to sell all the time when you're writing grants. You're selling yourself. You're selling your data, right? You're selling your outcomes. So, yes, I do agree.
Yeah. And even that, like a true leader has to sell their vision.
Yes.
Any CEO has
Your
to be able
team.
to sell themselves, have people follow you and have people believe in you and
Mhm.
believe in that group mission. And so that's all sales. That's all communication. That's developing yourself as a leader. And so that's what we want people to take a kind of look at this and say, okay, well, how can I do it in a way that's going to align with me? And that's why we don't necessarily tell people to get into logistics or transportation, but we
Mhm.
say, do what's right for you and let us show you how to find these opportunities. And so we try to teach people how to find these opportunities in their own place where they live, in their
Mhm.
own neighborhood. And then again, try to expand that, out in their state, out in the country, out in different countries. So sales has no limitations. So that's what we want to kind of teach people. And then we give them the skill sets so that they could actually create these opportunities and start adding value to be able to create their own financial freedom. And that's the one thing that we really want to teach is that financial freedom aspect and
Right.
telling people that it's actually in your own hands to be able to do this all along versus trying to get more money from your boss or trying to wait for a supervisor to give you that raise or that position that you've been looking for, but just saying, how can I take control of my life
Mhm.
instead of having it being controlled by somebody else? And that's essentially the mindset we want to give people is that freedom of choice. And I think with freedom of choice, people get freedom in general, and
Right.
then again, it just takes that stress off of you in life instead of running this rat race, saying, oh, okay, well, if I'm in charge, yeah, I can do this the way I want to do it. And we just try to
Mhm.
give you a lot of pointers to say, okay, here's all the ways that you can, and here's opportunities that you can look for. If you
Mhm.
choose to do so, then we'll teach you how to act on those opportunities as well.
Okay. You talked a lot about, you mentioned alignment a lot. Tell me,
Mhm.
what do you mean about alignment in sales or
Yeah. So
in logistics? Mhm.
for sure. So I mean, when I was working with different employers, sometimes I wasn't necessarily agreeable with their business ethics. I'll
Okay.
give you a couple examples of this. Is for example, we would do a shipment with another customer, and if another customer goes, "Hey, well, I'll pay you more. Can you do mine instead?" Or again, even if they didn't know we had another shipment booked, but again, it was like, okay, well, do we start shifting ourselves over a few dollars? Or
Mhm.
sometimes in transportation, it's a couple $100s, could be even thousands of dollars. But for me, it's about keeping that commitment. So for me, it was that honesty aspect of it, of saying, hey, I don't feel comfortable once we've already committed with somebody to break
Mhm.
my commitments and break my promises with somebody. And so I would really stick up for those type of rights. Another one was if an employee were to get in trouble, because I was always kind of in this management position.
Mhm.
And so if there was reprimand against an employee, I was saying, okay, well, my boss would say it's common sense. He should have known, and therefore we're going to discipline him. And for
Mhm.
me, it was about, hold on, it's not common sense until we train them.
Mhm.
And so understanding that there's a training component that has to happen first, especially when it's in a small to medium sized business. A lot of people will take shortcuts because they don't have the necessary resources to invest into all that training. And so if mistakes happen, it's understanding that it falls back on the ownership, falls back on the CEO. And so again, there was a lot of these things that were happening, small things. I was made promises in different businesses by owners. And so when I realized that people were not ethical in what they were saying, and they were willing to break promises, willing to break commitments, that wasn't really something that I could align with. And so if I
Okay.
didn't believe in that way of doing business, that's why I would quit a lot of my jobs. Was this, either I saw something else, someone else being disrespected, or I saw something that I didn't like. I didn't like any sort of ethical behaviors. Then I would just take myself away from that position, and it ultimately led me to entrepreneurship myself.
Right. So what do you recommend for people who are in business or getting into business when it comes to the integrity of doing business with other people?
For sure, the main thing is again, follow basic principles of being honest, ethical, and staying true to your commitments. If you're promising somebody, and this is a lot to do with the sales position, right?
Right.
Is we've had, I kind of work with some international companies right now, and they all promise, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, we're familiar with this program. We're familiar with that program. And then, once you pay the down payment, it's like, hold on, what happened here, right? Like, I thought you were familiar with this. I thought you
Right.
knew what you were doing. And so, again, is this a simple business principle? It's like, what do you
Mhm.
think the chances are that someone's going to want to work with you when they find out that you can't even stay in your integrity?
Right.
So that's the biggest thing we have in business, and it's such a simple foundation for success too. A lot of people, when I started my businesses, they go, Damon, the only reason that we're working with you is because when we talk to you, it feels like you're being honest with us. And as a
And it's
brand
good
new
for reputation management as well.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a big thing I would hear over and over again. And I experienced this in the businesses I was at, that we were able to grow, again, not even double the company, but one of the first companies I was at, we within 4 years, we went from $1 million a year to $24 million a year. And it was just
Wow.
the two of us that were kind of main in the office.
Mhm.
And again, I saw a lot of good ways that happened. Basic customer service. He listened to me when I said, "Hey, we're not going to do a business in an unethical practice." So it
Mhm.
was making sure it was in a giving format. We were making sure that the drivers were being paid well. We were making sure that we honored our commitments with any customers. We
Mhm.
didn't take, we weren't willing to switch, one shipment for our next over, a couple hundred or even $1,000. It was about making that honest effort of saying, "Hey, I'm just going to deliver common sense customer service."
Right.
That's all it is just saying, "Okay, I'm going to serve my customer service."
Right. It
And
kind of breaks down to that know, like, and trust factor, right? That we all talk about all the time. If people know
mhm.
you, they like you, and they trust you, then they'll be willing to do business with you and stick with you.
Well, they don't necessarily have to like you, but it's also about just saying, "Okay, well, how do I just serve, right? For the
Well, I
purpose
think
of
when I say
serving."
like, a like comes
Oh yeah,
into what
I
you're
get you.
talking about, like, understanding that you are a person of integrity. So that's the like I'm
Yeah.
talking about. You don't have to
Oh,
like
for
me,
sure.
like me. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
teach that in sales too. Yeah, we definitely teach
Yeah.
that part of it, about that relationship building aspect. The trust has
Yeah.
to be there. like, honestly, all that sort of stuff, right? You got to build that
Mhm.
relationship. And, but on the other side of it, it's also just saying, well, the only formula that I saw that was really successful in life was when you actually
Mhm.
cared about the employees. A lot of employees nowadays, they won't leave if you respect them really well.
Yeah. I
And
agree with that. Having employees myself, that's one of the things I tell people all the time. They're like, "Oh, why would you let her or him do X, Y, Z?" I was just like, because one slip up is not a character make. You know what I mean? You have to
Mhm.
look at the overall picture of what this person brings to the
Yeah.
table, and treat them accordingly. So you let some things slide here and there because you know that, you know, we're all human.
Human, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
um and then one of the other things you talked about was opportunity. So after you get them aligned, then you kind of help them to match with an opportunity that is aligned with, I'm assuming, their skill set and their interests.
Yeah, so we release weekly episodes. Each episode has a worksheet that
Hmm.
makes you kind of look introspectively and say, okay, well, what are my skill sets? What do I enjoy doing? And we're hoping to kind of give you that information while we're talking to is spark ideas inside your mind too. But then we're
Hmm.
giving you the tools on how to find those opportunities, whether it's searching on different job boards and how to approach people, for jobs that aren't even posted. And so
Hmm.
when we look at these type of opportunities, 70% right now of opportunities or jobs are actually given to people outside of just the regular posting jobs and resume search.
Mm.
It's yeah, so LinkedIn came out
That's a
with
good
their
tip for people who, because we're in a, economic crisis right now, and a lot of people are looking for jobs. I've seen people talk about looking for jobs for a year, 2 years, and they're
Mhm.
just not willing to become entrepreneurs because they don't think that they can handle working for themselves. So that's a good tip for people who are looking for jobs as well, not only just entrepreneurs. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So beyond that too, we're teaching them how to find businesses in general. So one of the
Mhm.
exercises that we try to teach people is just zoom out on Google Maps. And you're
Okay.
gonna start noticing right away how many people have actually home-based businesses first.
Mhm.
People that we thought were our neighbors, and you'll see this company name pop up on their name on their on their rooftop, and you're like, hold on, I didn't realize there were so many businesses all around
Really?
us, and how many
Uh-huh.
people are doing this out of their homes? Hold on.
Right.
And it may just be a mailing address, but at least you know that the person's an entrepreneur, and which you may
Mhm.
not have known just driving down the street.
Right.
And and so again, we're trying to teach them again thinking outside the box,
Mhm.
right? So again, it's we could be driving down. Maybe you've never driven into an industrial area.
Mhm.
Maybe you've never figured out what's in a big office tower, and you're curious about, hey, I wonder who's really working up there. Every time I drive downtown, I see these big buildings, and they really kind of stand out to me. But what are they? Who's in there?
Right.
So get curious, right? So we're trying to create that curiosity out of you.
Uh-huh.
Then we're teaching you tools on how to find those opportunities or how to connect with these people. And then
Mhm.
we also kind of break down like, okay, what are these people going through? So for example, in the States,
Mhm.
35 million small to medium sized business owners that exist right now in the States. But
Mhm.
we also know from stats that 50% of these businesses are going to go out of business within 5 years. That's a lot. That's quite a
Yeah.
few million companies that are being destroyed every year or
Mhm.
going under every year. And then there's probably a cycle of new companies coming in. And so we're trying to explain the psychology behind that and say, well, if you're an entrepreneur, how many different hats do you really have to wear?
Mhm.
You're the accounting department, you're the HR department, your safety, your
Yeah.
compliance, your operations, your marketing, sales, all this
Mhm.
sort of departments. So how are you taught these skills,
Mhm.
right? Do you have a degree in all of them, right? And there's no real manual, right? When we look at it.
Right.
And we say, well, there's certain blueprints, and we can go to mentors and we can go to coaches, but a lot of it we're gonna have to go through trial and error to figure it out,
Mhm.
unless we can get people to come help us. And so that's what we're trying to teach people is that hey, if so many millions are going under every year, they probably need some help. And so if there's opportunities there, those are those opportunities. That there's people that are already invested into businesses, and
Mhm.
if these people are these 35 million entrepreneurs, we already know half of them are going to go under. So there's a lot of people that we can help there. And then a lot of these
Right.
people can exist in our own neighborhood and even outside of that. And then we teach you on how to even search a company name, find different roles in that organization, who can you talk to
Mhm.
in that organization. So many different ways. We teach it on a foundational basis, but then we also scale it up for someone that's more experienced and is kind of further along that sales journey. So we really want to show people and expand their mindsets. And again, it doesn't have to be in your own state. So we talked about that: state, country, multi
Right.
countries, globally, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and that's good for whether you're a for-profit business or a nonprofit business. Because even when we talk about like fundraising and looking for sponsorship, a lot of what you just spoke about is what I have to teach is how to find who you need to talk to in various businesses. And then you kind of glassed over another point that I wanted to talk about, which was networking.
Hmm.
Right? You were talking about connecting with other people and how to build those relationships. So I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit.
For sure. So I'm going to kind of use your example here
Mhm.
as a charity and doing fundraising. Well, how do you find the people that are willing to contribute? So it's getting clear on creating a client profile first.
Right.
And so it's really grading in on that because not everyone's going to be your client.
Yeah.
And so this is again understanding that sometimes that takes time. Sometimes people don't
Mhm.
really understand who are these people that are going to be able to donate to a charity or be a potential customer for what I'm doing. And so again, that takes a little bit of a process to dig deeper into that. So that's part of that, you know, trial and error part. When you're starting a brand new business, what are the different ways that I can find clientele? What are the different things that I can do? Can I attract
Mhm.
them? Can I put something out there to let them know that I exist? So some of those are just the basic fundamentals of, again, building that sales process or building a system that can be repeated by anybody else that comes into the organization. The clarity has to be there, and the steps need to be there on how do we do this? How do we do it in a way where again you're able to introduce, you're not over aggressive with anybody, but
Mhm.
you're allowing people to make decisions and not forcing them. And
Right. You talked about repeatable processes. Do you suggest that people create SOPs that other people on their team can follow?
yeah, so I mean, a lot of times business owners don't create SOPs because
I
they
know.
don't truly understand what they're doing that's working.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's a skill on its own. So that's
Yeah.
important if you're able to recognize that. And again, it's just having that awareness. And like I said, the reason that we kind of created this course as well is to make people aware of those things that they should be doing that they may not necessarily be doing. And sometimes,
Mhm.
for example, when you open up a business, you're not really tracking who's actually coming into that business. And there could be lots of leads that you might have lost. And
Mhm.
then a couple of years later, you're like, who was that guy that came in? Yeah, I wish we would have just asked them their phone number. Or I wish
Right.
we just would have got some contact information, and
Yeah.
okay, or even if we did, where's that notebook that we wrote it on? So getting smarter about, okay, if I'm getting into business, what
Mhm.
processes do I need to have? Definitely having SOPs is going to help. But I'll guarantee, how many small business owners know what SOPs even are,
Ri right. Okay.
right? So
Uh,
if we talk, it's like talking to our kids. If we talk to our kids and we say,
mhm.
hey, we're going to create an SOP for this, they're like, huh? Did I get in trouble? Hold on, what's going on here? So it's
Right.
making sure that they understand the language, and we understand that so many entrepreneurs are immigrants.
Mhm.
And they haven't had the education that maybe me and you have had. So it's
Mhm.
saying it in a very basic language that they could really truly understand, and then also giving them the why behind it. Why is it important to create SOPs? What is this going to do for you? There's a because people are going to look at it and say, I don't have the time for it. But then you have to show them that future value of saying, well, this is going to save you so much
Mhm.
time. Or again, let's talk about what your business is going to look like 5 years from now. What do you
Mhm.
truly want? And this is where a lot of people will stay small is because they never think too far ahead, and then they have no game plan to get there. They're just too busy consumed in the business,
Right,
consumed in the
right.
opportunity that they're not really thinking 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road.
Or
But
succession.
yeah, succession is again way down the road, right? But when we get to that spot again, it's if they
Mhm.
can't think this far, then how are we gonna get them to think about something
Right.
that far, right? So it's about saying, okay, let's give you the small vision first. And this is something, again, when we talk about roadblocks, people make a mountain out of a molehill, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes, they do. Literally. They do. That's one of the things I realized because I do strategic planning with a lot of people. And when you said they can't even think that far down the road, when you do a strategic plan, it's usually a 3 to 5 year plan. And
Mhm.
that was so overwhelming for most people. So
Yeah.
what I started doing was doing quarterly plans. Okay, they can only think about what's happening in the next 3 months. So instead of trying to plan, I prefer to plan for the year at least, but if we can only plan quarter by quarter, it's better than not planning at all. At least having some idea of what's going to happen in this quarter, what how much money you need to make, who you need to get in contact with, what you need to do.
Mm.
So, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, and that's why things like manifestation work or vision boards work because
Yes.
there's a target somewhere that they're trying
Mhm.
to reach. And so if they know, okay, this is where we're trying to reach, again, putting the steps in place is all there that's really missing to really get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Damon, we're getting ready to wrap up. So I'm going to ask you my my two ending questions. The
Sure.
first one is what makes you an impactor?
I believe what makes myself an impactor as well as my team
Mhm.
is our mission to truly serve and to say that if we can serve people and be kind of leading in that dynamic of getting people to open up their hearts, open up their time, be generous with their neighbors. It's creating that impact of saying, okay, hey, if we are able to teach each other, help each other, improve our mindsets, and grow together, we're going to build a better global community. And that's truly what we think that we can create from this impact is to have a foundation that can be shared between anybody. And again, the reason that we do it for free is because we want this message to be shared. And if it resonates, then we want people to say, okay, can I take the courses that we have? It's 110 classes that we've already made,
Mhm.
and that's the entire curriculum. But we do want facilitators to be able to teach us forward, and we're hoping by doing that that we could close this gap of the rich being up here and the poor being here, and we can kind of meet in the middle here and create opportunities for everyone. Where again, it's not the top 1% that owns 50% of the world, the wealth in the
Right.
world. Yeah.
And what are three impactor tips that you would leave with our audience today?
First one is change your mindset. Start opening up your mindset if we can. So
Yeah.
start allowing opportunities to come in. If we open up, is the only time that we're able to start growing and willing to change ourselves to get different results in our life. Second is learning the art of communication. So the quality of our life is based on the way that we communicate. If you have not, it's because you asked not. You've probably heard that before as well. And so
Mhm.
learning how to communicate, whether it's how we feel, what we want in life, what we would like to do in life. There's so
Mhm.
many things that we can communicate better just to have a better quality of life. Sales also teaches us those components that impact what we do on a day-to-day basis. And the last one is act. So if we could put something together for ourselves, is being able to say, okay, am I willing to take action steps to create the life that I truly want? And that's what we want people to do is and say, what small step can I do today that can compound over time to give me the results that I'm truly looking for?
Mhm. Awesome. All right. So tell our audience where they can find you and how they can take your course if they are interested.
For sure, yeah. Follow us on logisticssales.com. Take a look at some of the videos that we have posted on there. You can subscribe to get weekly videos along with our worksheets. We do
Mhm.
post on all the major social media channels, so you'll see that on the bottom of the page. So Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and yeah, follow us for weekly updates. And you're able to leave comments below. And if you're doing some of the worksheets and you're
Mhm.
stuck on any of your steps, reach out to us. We're going to try to help you for free as well.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. All right, Damon, thank you so much for being a guest here on Impactors Out Loud. And for all those listening, this is a great opportunity to, whether you are in your career or you're an entrepreneur, to up your game, right? And get some solid advice from someone who has done it for many years and built multi-million-dollar companies so that you can be successful. Until next time, everyone, remember to stay impactful. Bye-bye.